Hello, good evening, everybody. So we are back again with a new show, Straight Talk with Lambertville School District candidate. So today we have our co-host, Mr. Amrit Chima and Assis Chima. First of all, I want to thank Mr. Amrit Chima and Assis for helping to put this show on for Mountain House Lambertville School District candidate. So here we will listen from the candidate what their thoughts are, what their vision is, and we'll discuss with them what issues they think the school district is facing and what will be their solutions, what they are bringing to the school district. So I'll introduce a little bit about Amrit Chima. He's a great mentor, great friend, and an educationalist. Double masters, was a PhD student, and worked as a scientist and now running his own business. So always there for the kids to mentor them, to teach them, as well as for the younger generation to always look up to person, to go to person. So now I'll request Mr. Amrit Chima to please introduce himself.
Hello, everyone. My name is Amrit Chima. Welcome to the show. First of all, and I'd like to thank you, Gurtej, for kind of rosy depiction of me. Not that rosy, but appreciate that. Thank you. Again, like I said, I'm Amrit Chima. I've been here in Mountain House since 2004. All of my kids, all three of them, sort of brought and bred in Mountain House itself ever since from kindergarten all the way to high school graduates and kids and colors of it. So I have a highly vested interest and I thank the team here to kind of get us on the show as a co-host for the Mountain House, for the betterment of Mountain House community at large, to have a candidates who are becoming the leaders for the future for us in this community into a better future. Thank you with that, and I'll introduce Cease as well. Cease, would you please introduce yourself as well too?
Hello, everyone. My name is Assis Chima. I'm currently a senior at Mountain House High School. I've been a part of the Mountain House community for my whole life. I went to kindergarten through 8th grade at Wiccan Elementary, and I've attended all 4 years of high school at Mountain House High School.
Thank you very much, Assis. Appreciate it. Now I'll add our first candidate, so Stephanie Olsen, and I'll request Amrit Chima to please introduce Stephanie.
Thank you, Gurtej. Welcome, Stephanie, first of all, to a fellow Mountain House resident, and welcome to the show. I think it's live right now, and we're watching. Hopefully, lots of live audience will be joining us from the Mountain House community, kind of watching live on the show. Uh, uh, for the audience, Stephanie has been around Mountain House for a long time, and she's a JD, a great doctor. As a profession and working for Employment Opportunity Office as a the lead investigator for discrimination investigator. So thank you for that. With that, I'll go to the show from Stephanie and let her introduce herself to the audience. Stephanie, please introduce yourself and your background.
Thank you so much. I just want to say thank you so much for having me on the show. I've been a longtime fan of the Sikhs of Mountain House because I am a community volunteer. And in my roles as a community volunteer, the Sikhs of Mountain House have many times have stepped up and helped out. And I appreciate that they see a need and they feel it. And it's great that you're feeling this need, which is great to get candidate information out there. So thank you so much for having me. I've lived in Mountain House for 13 years. And before that, my background is I studied French and history teaching as an undergraduate, and I got my teaching certificate in the state of Utah. And I loved education and teaching. And so I decided to pursue it even further. And I got a master's degree in French language acquisition. And at that same time that I was getting my master's degree, I taught French 101 and 102 at the college level to undergraduate students at Brigham Young University. And I wrote a curriculum for my research, a language curriculum that was piloted at a language training center. And we actually, this was back in the late 90s. We back then we even used technology to help teach French, and it was a successful pilot. And I learned a lot about how difficult it is to create a good curriculum that reaches students in a meaningful way so that they grasp the material. but I had a passion for that, and I was going to continue that. I was on my way to Ohio State to pursue a PhD in French and become a professor. But there's always been a part of my heart that has loved the law, and I grew up as a kid just I want things to be fair. You know, everyone says life isn't fair, and I always felt like we have to do our best to make it as fair as possible. You know, people have to have the same fair opportunities, and what they do with that is on them. But if they don't even have the same fair opportunity, you know, that's not fair. And so I followed my heart and I went to law school, and I'm glad I did, because I met my husband my first year of law school. And my first son, I became expectant with him my second year of law school, which made it difficult because I had to come back 4 days after having him and take my, study for my finals and be ready. But I made it through all of 3 years of law school. I studied for it and passed the Utah State Bar, even with my 1-year-old running all over the place while I was studying. And I did a clerkship with a judge in criminal court. I briefly worked at the Utah Attorney General's office in the Tax and Revenue Division, and found that very boring. Tax law, very boring. And so I had a clerkship lined up, and at that time I had to follow my heart, and I had to decide, do I want to really put my heart into working as an attorney, or focus on using my education to help my community and focus on raising my children? It was a really tough choice, but at the time I felt like I needed to focus on my children, my growing family, and that I could use my education. And education is not just for a career, and so I can use it in many ways, and that's what I chose to do. And that's what I've been doing for most of my life, and until a few years ago when I decided that it was time to start, using my degree a little bit more. So I became an equal employment opportunity investigator, and I investigate claims of discrimination. So when a federal employee feels like they've been discriminated against for any reason, provided for under the Civil Rights Act of 1964, which we, race, skin color, religion, age, disability, sexual orientation, those things. I investigate those claims of discrimination, and I usually get cases from the Department of Health and Human Services. So I get to speak to a lot of very intelligent scientists that are working hard in this country. So I love doing that, and I love that what I do allows me to decide how many cases I take, so that I can continue to devote my time to the community. I haven't lived in Mountain House as long as you, but I moved here in 2007, so we've been here 13 years, and I have 5 children. And my oldest son was in 3rd grade when we moved here, and my next son was in 1st grade, and my oldest daughter was a preschool, and I was expecting my 4th child. And now I have 5 children, and my oldest son is 21 and in college, and my son Samuel graduated from Mountain House High School in 2019, and he's also in college. My daughter Julia is a junior at Mountain House High School, and I have a daughter in 7th grade at Cuesta Elementary, and a daughter in 1st grade at Cuesta Elementary. And we love Mountain House. I love the community. It's my hometown. I will be here for a long time, until my youngest gets all the way through school, and maybe even after that. And I'm proud to live here, and I'm proud. I came here for the safety, the beautiful homes, and the schools, and I'm proud to live here.
Wonderful. Well, thank you for that great introduction. And I think it's good to hear that a fellow Mountain House resident who's seen ins and outs of it. And I think that places a very high comfort, at least in my mind, to have somebody who can represent our community with that kind of quote unquote discriminatory interface with your background to judge what's best for the community and bring that about in a meaningful way. We need somebody who can fight for the rights, and you have the right kind of background and education as well as a Jewish doctor, and that's highly appreciated for that. Excellent.
Thank you. And I do like to advocate for the right things, that's for sure. I spent 13 years in Mountain House advocating for changes, and I'm persistent. So
right.
If something's important, I will go for it.
Right. Tell us a little bit about. I know you touched on. It seems like your kids have kind of grown interface with ours quite a bit. in kind of similar fashion. But I think when one of the things that came out was from feedback that we got was the teacher retention. It's a quality school. We have, leaps and bounds of progress that we made over the years. The school has been in existence, but particularly for high school, I think there was a little bit of a concern that there's a very high turnover rate for the students, for the teachers. I'm sorry. Uh, what is? Can you speak a little bit about that, specifically to address how can we have a better teachers, and once we find them, how can we keep them around so that we can have a continuation of education for our youngsters? So there's a quality level in our education over there.
Yes, I can speak to that because I have followed the high school closely even before my oldest son was a freshman before the high school was built, so he wasn't there, but my younger son was, and I've seen over the years that it's gotten a little bit better. We're starting to retain teachers, and I think the difference and what we have to continue to do is provide support for the teachers, because our high school is unique. Teachers, they've gone to college and they might have learned to teach the traditional ways that didn't really include all the 21st century technology that we're trying to incorporate. And we really have a great vision for what the future is. And looking around, I think that teachers are going to find that a lot of other districts are trying to emulate our district in that regard. So
Right.
to keep the teachers in this district, one of the challenges will always be, compensation, because if you look in the Bay Area, they have more money, they can pay more. So we have to give our teachers, the best compensation we can, but we also have to treat them like the professionals they are and trust them and listen to them. And even when the district says, no, what your feedback is, we don't agree with, it's important to be respectful about that and make sure that the teachers know they've been heard in a meaningful way, and let them know the why. I think a lot of times, even when we don't get what we want, if we don't know the why, it leads our
Right.
minds to go all over the place. And I think we can be better at explaining the why to people. And as a board, we're in, if I'm elected and any board member is entrusted to make decisions on behalf of the students in the community that impact everybody's life, teachers' lives, students' lives, parents' lives, it's critical that we explain the why, the rationale behind our decisions, so people can understand, because we want people to buy into our vision, and we need teachers to buy into the vision. And I spoke recently with the principal of the high school, because I was curious, what steps he was taking, and I think he's got it down. He has he wants to lead the teachers in a way where they can provide feedback and be a part of the decision making process, and he listens to them. And I think that we're seeing more teachers are starting to stay. I don't know about you, but I noticed I was especially concerned about how many math teachers we lose every year, because that's such a critical
Exactly.
subject. And
Right.
and I think that we're starting to see a little more stability there. And I hope that as long as we continue to trust teachers and treat them like professionals, and understand that they're in the classroom, they know what works well and what doesn't, and
Right.
they hear from the students, and they see how the students are learning, that we will be able to retain them.
Right. Excellent. I think I jumped into the details a little bit more too quick, but I'd like to kind of step back out a little bit, Stephanie, first. Since you're running for LUSD Board of Trustees, can you kind of step back at a high level? What are the key points that your campaign is all about first? Before we ask kind of our questions and soon questions that might be answered in your kind of pre-launch, could you please give us a high level sort of what you run for, 3, 4, 5 key points that our community will remember you for who is Stephanie Olsen running for?
Yes. I think the main point is, I think our board needs somebody who's been in the community, been invested in serving and volunteering and leading, that understands at a level of being in the trenches with parents, teachers, and students, what the needs are and what's missing. I like to kind of equate it to, if I'm writing a legal document for a case and a report of investigation, and I have to consider all, I'm looking at the broad view, and I have to look at, if I'm making the points of the law stick to the facts and the evidence, and get my citations right, and also worry about grammar. That's a bunch of things going on at once. And I think because that's what the board is doing right now, they're missing those, grammatical errors like the commas and the misspelled words. And it might not seem that important, but it really is. It makes the document better. It makes it more readable for a judge, and it makes an impact. But they don't see it because everything's on their plate. I've been in the trenches as a parent, and I will be a parent if elected to the board and still see things at that level. So I can come in and say, hey, that comma's out of place. Those words are misspelled. We can fix that, and we can make our document go from like a 95% document to a 100% document. And because we know we have a great school district and people move here for the schools, but we are missing somebody who's really invested in the community and knows what the community wants and values to be on the board. And I can bring that voice to the board. So advocacy on behalf of parents and teachers in a more meaningful way, getting them involved is a priority. I'd also like to continue advocating for our district at the state level, because we are a district that is high growing, and we're going to be growing for a long time. And we have one of the least amounts of dollars per student in the state of California. And the local control funding formula makes it really hard for us to get what's, I believe, fair for our students. And so we have to continue to advocate and work with state legislator and our representatives to get that. And then, teach so that our student and teachers get the funding they deserve. Safety, physical and mental, especially in a time of COVID. And I can go on, touch on that later if you want. And because mental health is very important. And then equitable opportunities for our students. And I mean equitable opportunities for all students, the high achieving students, students in need of special education resources, students who are going to struggle just to even graduate from high school. We need to make sure that we do everything we can to decrease the achievement gap so that all of our students can achieve.
Excellent. I think the key we touched on kind of high level, once we start to kind of dissect that, get into a little bit more details on each of those points. Thank you for that. It's people like to know kind of in a bullet format, a lot of times as to what they can remember our candidates to be running for, and then it's excellent that you're running for parents, teachers, students, you're running for the community in legislation in the state so we can get more funding for it. And that's pretty holistic kind of viewpoint for the rest of the community to see, hey, that's my candidate who's going to bring value to us by hitting all aspects of them. We're not excluding anybody out of it by addressing the needs for all different segments of the community as well. Thank you for that. Paige,
thank you very much, Stephanie, for touching the key points. So one thing in my mind is, as you have mentioned, the COVID, it's taking a toll on every business, on every aspect. So it will be taking a toll on the school district too. So as this is a decent sized school district, so approximately 5,500 students are there, and the plan is to have 12 K to 12 schools and one high school, which will incorporate 10,000 students. So going forward, the plan is for expansion, but this COVID situation will be a hurdle. So how do you think, so as a trustee, you will deal with the situation to make the school district fiscally healthy?
Did you say fiscally healthy?
Yeah.
Oh, physically.
No, fiscally. So yeah, as in matter of the financial.
Oh, okay.
The financially healthy. Yeah.
Yes. So the budget, I think, is always going to be our biggest challenge in Mountain House, and because of the way the state has set up the funding for schools. In one sense, they did a great service by giving school districts, local control of how they spend the funds. The problem is their funding formula really hurts districts that don't have a lot of students that are foster students or receive government aid and free and reduced lunch, because the funding formula gives a lot more money to those schools. So going forward, I will say that our superintendent, I'm on the Measure L Citizens Bond Oversight Committee, so I get updates in our meetings about, the development of our schools, and they're happening. The Evelyn Costa Elementary is coming soon, and it will probably not be soon enough given our growth and students, but our superintendent is excellent at getting schools built, and finding funds for that. The struggle that we have is finding funds to make sure that we can continually give our teachers cost of living raises and not have to make cuts to them or to the student resources. And that's going to be a challenge that will require us, because our goal as a district will always be to be fiscally responsible and spend the funds very wisely. It's very important that we be very careful and look into things before we spend them and make wise decisions. But even if we make the wisest decisions, the budget is kind of like walking a tightrope because of the local control funding formula. So as a board, we have to be proactive in also seeking outside of the box solutions and options. And, the COVID thing, when we return to school, we are, going to need something for our students' mental health, I'm going to guess, because my heart goes out to last year's seniors, especially, and this year's seniors. And we can make our best efforts to give them positive experiences with distance learning, but they have lost something, and we have to watch out for how their mental health handles that, and make sure that we get them through that. And when students come back to school, they're going to still be struggling a little bit. And so we have to think outside the box. And I've been looking into that. And, there are ways. I just read about Sacramento. They were able to get funding to provide one mental health professional at each of their school sites by going through Medi-Cal. They had enough students that qualified for Medi-Cal that the state will give them funding for that. Now, I don't know yet if that would apply to our district, because like I said, we don't have a lot of poverty in our district, so that can limit the funding sources we can get. But we can look into options like that, and we have to think outside the box. Our district does have a grant writing committee, or at least it used to. I don't know how active it is, but I think we need to reactivate it and utilize the people in our community who are very intelligent, people with science backgrounds, math backgrounds, engineering, who also know how to write really well, especially technical writing, which is required in seeking grants. And we need to get outside the box and find ways to get funds. I did speak with a community member involved with mental health who is willing to set up some free resources for our district. And so as a board member, we have to investigate every opportunity like that to see what we can provide for our students, because the state Senate for COVID for this year, if I can just touch on the budget, because it's critical that people understand this. The Senate Bill 820, there were two bills passed. The first one was Senate Bill 820, and then I believe it was Senate Bill 98, then 820, and they were called hold harmless and fair compromise bills. And the hold harmless bill benefits districts with declining enrollment in that they will not receive they will receive the same funding this year that they did last year, so that their district could get a windfall. If they've lost 50 students, they have funding for 50 extra students that they can do what they want with. Our district, however, is a growth district, and there's 15% of the districts in the state of California that are growth districts. And so we had 6,100 students last February or March, and now we have at 6,419 students. And that number is going to go up every week, because we see the realtors telling us that they can't keep houses on the market. They sell the same day or even before they list. People are moving here and homes are getting built. So we right now, as it stands, we didn't receive funding for 234 students that are in our district because of the Senate bills that were passed, that they say hold harmless and are a fair compromise, but they're not fair to districts that are growing. And so
can you, Stephanie, can you touch on that? Sorry to interject. Talk a little bit about that particular issue that you're bringing up right now. Is to what's the formula? First of all, I think a lot of our audience don't know what is the formula that's used to say, hey, Mountain House is getting less of it than maybe some other special districts we have. Is it our population size? Is it our student body number? What is it that we're getting less of it than the others in the nation? What is the core ed?
The formula is set so that districts get a base amount for their students, and then there's two supplemental portions of the funding formula. One is, for students on foster students, and from homes like that, and then the second component is students on free and reduced lunch. And there's a 20% boost in the first supplement and a 50% boost in the next per student. And so our district only has 17% of students that qualify for free and reduced lunch. We have foster students in our district, but not nearly as many as other districts. So we don't get those bumps in the funding. And so that's where we come short a little bit. I will say the average daily attendance has helped our district a little bit in keeping funds up, but it's not keeping up with our growth. And we Dr. Nicholas at the last board meeting kind of went over this, our superintendent, and he suggested that we advocate with the California School Board Association to file a lawsuit to get equitable and fair funding for our district. And if that doesn't work, he suggests that our district fight it. And he has good reason to suggest that because it isn't fair. And there is a landmark Supreme Court case that says that the state has to provide fair and equitable funding to every district. And so we have a great case as to how we're not being treated fairly. But in the meantime, until you can't guarantee anything. So if we're at a $2.1 million deficit because we don't get that funding for students, but we have to hire more teachers to teach them, we can't just shove 234 students in one class. So to the overall budget, that's about, I did a little rough analysis on a spreadsheet. It's about a 4.5% cut to our budget, which, some people might think, well, that's not that bad. Right. But 71% of our budget goes to certificated employees' pay and compensation. And most of that is certificated employees are teachers. Some of that's administrators. But 23 million, we have a budget of $49 million, and the 23 million of that goes to the certificated employees, and then you add their benefits of 10 million. So if you don't want, we want to retain teachers. And so if we don't want to make teacher cuts, the other 6 categories of the budget that we spend money on would have to be dropped by, cut by 31% each to make up for that $2.1 million deficit. And so that's where it becomes catastrophic for our district. And that's a concern right now that we have to fight for to get the funding for our students. And it's something that I believe until the legislature makes a few, changes to how schools are funded, we will always have to be on our toes and ready to advocate for ourselves and make sure that we get what we need for our students, and also think outside the box, to kind of give us a buffer.
Right. I think you touched excellent on that. I mean, hope we don't. It's a catch-22. First of all, I think from what I've been hearing, we don't want our low-income category kind of go up in one hand, so we get more funding. But then again, this is a more affluent community, so we are limited in that to get more funding for that. Also, the legality of it. I think to get more funding, if push comes to shove, I hope we don't go there though, because that's a cost. That's
yes,
unnecessary costs and get kind of litigation just to prove our point to have a right established. And then at the same time, to do that, and you don't have an ear listening to you in the state, in our higher ups, then we have to show your muscle as well too. And I think you have the right background for that, for sure. So hopefully they'll listen to the argument without having to go to a pursuit of legality to get that funding. So appreciate that, a little bit more depth into that issue as well. So Paige, do you want to kind of lead into that, or should we kind of switch over to, we have about 20 minutes left? Students get to ask a few questions as well, or?
Yeah, I just was thinking, as Stephanie explained the whole aspect from the parent side, teacher side. So I would request Assis to please share her thoughts from the student perspective, what discussion points she has in her mind.
Hi, Ms. Olsen. I just wanted to thank you for coming forward on this platform to share your thoughts so that the Mountain House community, including the students, can get to know you better. So my first question is, What motivates you to want to become a board member?
Um, wow, that's a great question that I love to talk about because what motivates me is the students in this community first and foremost, and then the teachers and the parents. Like I said, we came to Mountain House 13 years ago, and like sure when your dad and mom moved here, they came on a little bit of faith that the high school would get built. We didn't know for sure that it would happen or when it would happen. But I came here with a belief in my heart that Mountain House was going to be a great community, and it is. And as I've spent time getting to know the community members and the students in our district, I've just come to love this community and love the people. And I like to help people, and I like to I was always taught to use your talents in a way that can help people, and I feel like I have the talents um, to help people, and that helping people motivates me. And I want our district to be the best it can be, and I think it's already a great district. And I think that the families that move to Mountain House are so devoted to education, and studies have shown students do a lot better when parents are involved, and I think our community gives proof to that. And I want to make it even better because I know our community is made up of people that strive for excellence and that they want to see our schools do even better. And the better we get, the harder it is to make that next step. But I'm persistent, and I it also motivates me to be on the board because I do see that there are things that aren't quite fair. And like I said, my whole life, I care about fairness. I know everyone always says, growing up, well, life's not fair, get over it. And I agree, we have to know how to deal with bad situations and get through them. But as a society and as a community, we have to do everything in our power to make opportunities fair and do what we can to level the playing field for everyone. And that's important to me.
Thank you very much, Stephanie. Thank you very much, Assis. So you are the key stakeholder for the school district. So by chance, so we are having some live questions, some additional key stakeholders. Let me bring them on. Hello, students. How are you doing? So please,
Hi,
yeah,
everybody.
please briefly introduce yourself and let us know what thoughts are in your mind for Stephanie.
Hi, my name is Siduk, and I just had a question for Miss Olsen. So I know that you were a president of the Booster Club in the past, and I was just wondering how your position as a school board member will be by your past experience as president of the Booster Club.
Well, my experience as a past president of a booster club, I think will help me as a school board member in that we have to fight for funding for our students, and we have to find ways to get funds. And as a booster club president, that's what we do. So I believe my experience will help me know how to involve parents and the parent organizations more, because we can utilize them a lot more than we are, and they can be more impactful to help us help the students. But I also think that my experience has just helped me get to know the community better. I've gotten to know more students, and I'm just so like I'm proud of, you get proud of your own kids as a parent, but sometimes I just look out at the whole district and I hear about the success of our students and the things they're doing. And I just feel so proud of all of them because I've just really, truly learned to love this community, and I want to celebrate all of our students. And so I think that being a leader of the Booster Club has, helped me just understand that the wishes of parents for their children, the wishes of the students. And I think it's very important, as a school board member, that we do all that we can to empower our students. I love that you're having students ask questions here, because as a board member, everything we do really is centered on our students. When we make decisions that impact the whole community, and we are responsible to all of the stakeholders, but everything we do really is for the students. And so I think it's great that you're asking questions, and I hope that as students you will always know that you have a right to express your concerns to the board and be heard just as any other stakeholder in the district. So thank you.
Thank you.
Just a quick admin thing. So that when you guys come on, another student, talk introduce yourself. What grade are you in, and how you're related to Mount House as a community as well. Just
Oh,
brief.
yeah, sorry. So, I have been in Mountain House almost my whole life. I went to Wickland kindergarten through 8th grade, and then I went to Mountain House High School, and now I'm going to UC Davis.
Oh, excellent school.
Yeah,
Nice.
no, thank you very much, Siddiq. Much appreciate. Can you please hand it over to the other student for the question?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. Hello, how are you?
You're mute right now. You get unmuted, Harja.
Yeah, I just
One more time. One more time. There you go.
yeah. So please introduce yourself and let us know what your thoughts are.
Hi, my name is Harjab. I've lived in Mountain House for most of my academic career. I started here in kindergarten and I just graduated from the high school last spring, and now I attend UC Berkeley. And so I wanted to ask you, how do you plan on improving the school district in terms of student life, education safety, and bullying during your tenure as board member, and how do you plan on taking these initiatives further?
Thank you for your question. And I think that that is a very important question. Student life at school is important. Often focus, schools often focus and have plans for the physical safety of their students, but their emotional, social, and mental safety is just as important. And students should be able to come to school and leave school feeling better about themselves than when they got there. I I know that just a little personal story. When I grew up, my parents moved a lot, and we moved from 3 different states to different cities back and forth. I actually attended 9 different schools between kindergarten and 12th grade, and so I was often the new kid and the outsider at school, and that was hard. And the difference that made all the world to me from one school to the next was how I was treated and accepted and included by teachers, and how mindful they were. And I think that to improve bullying, we have to acknowledge that it's there and we have to see it. And sometimes it's easy to say, oh, Mountain House, that doesn't happen. We're such a good community. And we are. We are a really good community and we have good people, but we're not perfect. And so we have to, first of all, acknowledge that this does happen at times. And, I believe that anybody between K through 12th grade, we need to give them the opportunity to change and be better. So we want to educate the bully. But first and foremost, we have to protect the bullied. We have to make sure that not just physically they're safe, but that they feel mentally, physically, and socially safe from the bully. And so I think just teaching people to be mindful, because I know one of my children, I won't say which to give too much away personal, but one of my children was bullied in a really bad way. So by words and by physical actions, getting sprayed in the face with a chemical daily, and he kept it to himself. And I often wanted to say, how did nobody see that? How did nobody see that? We need to teach people to see it. We need to teach people to hear it. And I think that there are programs that the high school's been using, and I can't remember the name of it. It's the one where anyhow, I know they're doing it for all the sophomores. They come together and they get, they overcome they show how they're similar versus different. And I think we need more programs like that, and we need it at a younger age. And we spend a lot of instructional time with our students at assemblies for awards, and I think we should reward students for their hard work, but we might not need to take time out for assemblies for rewards all the time. Maybe we could have more assemblies that address this and teach students about bullying and how to treat others. And I think that that would be a better use of our instructional time. And I've looked into it in other districts, especially for the K through 8 honor roll assemblies. They do that, right before school starts, or right when school starts. Parents meet outside the classroom and they reward the students in that class with their certificates. And it's just as meaningful to the students. And they're not sitting through an hour-long assembly. And I believe we could empower our students and our ASB, our student bodies, to lead these assemblies and find ways to use that time to really send the message that we're going to teach you how to be mindful of this. You're going to pay attention and you're going to stand up for it. You know, you see something, you're going to say something. And confrontation is scary for people. You know, when I have advocated for teachers and parents before the board, even I get nervous, you know, standing up there, they're all up on the dais and but we need to teach people that confronting something, confrontation isn't a bad thing. Confronting is like addressing it, you know, and dealing with it instead of shoving it aside. And I think that one way we can do that is, you know, using assemblies and involving students at a younger age in that, because I think that when kids learn it at a young age, it sticks with them. It's harder to teach older people something when they've had the habit maybe of not doing it that way. So start as young as possible.
Definitely. Thank you for that. I also have another question. What is your vision for education within this community? Like, what are you imagining?
Well, I think that my vision is that we continue to utilize our technological advantage as a district and our connection to Delta College. I know that I was really, it's really great to see that our students have so many opportunities to take a lot of classes and learn all the subjects they want. I know we have very motivated students in this community, and a lot of them, you know, get to the high school and they're like, I want to take all the electives, but I only have this many hours. And we've provided our students opportunities to do things over the summer. And that's great. And so I think that we need to continue to offer those opportunities for our highly motivated students that want to go to great universities like UC Davis and UC Berkeley. We also have to remember that there are students that struggle to learn and that may struggle just to graduate from high school. And that's just, you know, some people are just not academic learners, but they have other skills in life that are just as valuable. And we need to make sure that we don't exclude them and that we give them an education that prepares them to go out into society, get jobs, and be productive and do what they want to do with their life. And I think that one way we can do that is involving more parents, tutoring, and the students. Our students, I think, make great tutors. I know my daughters, a few Mountain House High School students did an online Zoom science thing over the summer, and my middle school daughter did it. And the students were amazing. I could hear them teaching, and I was so impressed. They know how, students sometimes know how to connect and teach a subject in a way that adults or experts cannot, because they're so familiar with it. They don't see it at the process level. And so I think we need to just empower our students more to help the community. And then one final thing that I don't know that, you know, necessarily a school district can do this with the funding we have right now, but I think as a community at large, we can look into this to just be a community about education, is you know, using the community center and the town hall to help people learn English better. You know, it's been on my mind a lot because my son, who's 21, has a fiance in the Philippines, and she knows a little bit of English. But I know when we finally get her over here, if we ever can, because of COVID, that she'll need to have help practicing her English. And I think there's other community members that might like to do that. You know, English as a second language, it's hard to learn. I mean, so I'm told. It's my first language, so I don't know how hard it is to learn. But I think it's harder than French to learn. And so I think it would be great service to our community. And it would be one way that we could also celebrate our diversity.
I have a little bit of a kind of extension of that touch point, just briefly though. It's a pet peeve. It's a little past in the history of my kid. What about Common Core? And when we introduced high school, when it started the first year, that was the year when we introduced Common Core and flipped learning concept to schools, which basically Common Core was a complete overhaul of what the subject matter been taught to the schools was. The curriculum was changed completely. And the method of teaching with flipped learning and applied-based education came about versus conceptual. That was a huge dump on the community students, and I've seen students going from grade in the previous education system flip low, and the other end of the students who were not doing very well in a book-based old system started itself, kind of flip the whole thing. What is your take on it? Do you and just to add on to it, and I know there was a controversy on that. Some of the states like New York actually cut it off right away and said we're not going to follow Common Core. what is your take on, first of all, belief on that system? Is it good? If that kind of change coming into about a suddenly to student body, is it healthy, and should that be implemented in a phase, slowly or instantly? What's your take on it on Common Core?
Well, I think that it was it was it was really unfair, in my opinion, to ask districts to implement it all the way through K through 12, because, like you said, the older students had been taught one way their whole lives, and to switch like is very difficult, especially for students who are entering high school. And it was unfair to teachers too. If I had been in charge of making the decision, or in hindsight, I think what they should have done was implement it one grade at a time, starting at the lowest grade, so that because my children who didn't know any better and just started school with the Common Core objectives, they're doing fine. They're able to learn it. And I was really concerned about math, to be honest, with Common Core, because it really changed. I was worried about, how would kids know what they were learning, what subject. Are they in algebra or are they in trig? I mean, I'm still kind of confused, what is math 1, what is math 2, because I'm used to algebra, trig, geometry. But as I've researched the objectives, if the objectives are actually put into place the way they're written, the students will come out learning more and have more ways of doing it. But it was unfair to put that on our older students, and our teachers. I think that it would have been great to just build it up through the system. And the thing about Common Core is a lot of the stuff for Common Core that was written is horrible curriculum. And so finding a good curriculum right off the bat was difficult. And I think that was a frustration for teachers. And I know around 2016, our teachers were feeling very, very frustrated. I even went picketing with them because the things that they were being asked to do didn't, make sense. They're hard to implement in the classroom, and it was too much at once. And we need to listen to that, because our teachers know our students and they know how they learn, and they're invested. If you look at the majority of teachers that are teaching in Mountain House High School and in our K through 8 elementaries, a lot of them live in this community. A lot of them stay after school late hours to provide extracurricular activities for our kids. They care, and they have the experience to kind of know what works and what doesn't. And so I just think it was unfair. And I think that as far as standards go, we have to make sure that we're not making things too simplified for our students, because they can be challenged and they can learn.
Yeah, thank you. That was one of the, her job brought up what's your vision for education. I think that's one thing we all went through implementation, a large scale implementation of Common Core. So I think, the reason I ask you is because you're going to be in a position for making those decisions for the district, and, come about next phase of some dramatic change. What's the process of implementation is extremely important. And I like the fact that we should have a little bit more systematic approach in implementing that process, so that it didn't cut off all the previous students who already been doing it a certain way. It should have been start from lower levels and kind of build up in that. So it's great. Thank you for the answer on that one. That was one of the pitchy subjects that we had. Rajab, we have other CC level students have any questions? We're running a little bit of time, so kind of wrap that up after that. So we have a few. Welcome.
Hi, my name is UB, and I'm a sophomore at UOP right now. I used to go to Mount House here, and I went to Bethany. So my question for you today is, how are you planning on enforcing students to wear masks and practice social distancing when in school starts?
Yeah, that is a good question, because we can't even really count on all adults wearing masks at times, can we? But I'm actually on the high school safety committee for we're writing the COVID manual, and the school is going to be pretty tough on this approach. If a student says, "I will not wear a mask," the only exception that will be made is that they have a doctor's note saying they cannot wear a mask, and it will have to be from their doctor signed. If they don't have that note and they say, "I'm not wearing my mask at school," they're going to be sent home. We cannot risk like I said, we cannot risk an outbreak causing students to return back to distance learning once we've gone to school, because that would be just crushing to them, and it wouldn't be safe practices for our faculty, our teachers, or our students. So the policy is going to be pretty hardcore on that. I'm hoping that it won't be needed for long. I keep watching the news and thinking, as quickly as we get bad news, hopefully we can see good news at some point, and advances. But we will be taking safety very, very cautiously, because we have to. It will, if we don't do that and we have an outbreak, and the state and county say you have to go back to complete distance learning, then we've caused one more level of devastation to our students.
So Stephanie,
Thank you.
thank you, UB. Just on that topic, but just briefly, opening of schools, you anticipate opening up next semester in class?
About opening the schools?
Opening the school for in classes, briefly.
So we can't open until we get to tier 1 from the governor's guidelines, which it's not going to be easy. It's the long process, because you have to stay in each tier for I think it's 21 or 28 days before you can even move to the next. And so we definitely won't be getting back to school based on those standards before January. And I don't know what January will hold. I follow the county stats of our county, and cases are starting to go down, but it's hard to know, because as quickly as they go down, our district thought we would be opening up in August with the hybrid plan, and a month before things spiked up again. So it's hard to know. I defer to the health experts from the county and state on this, because I am not a scientist, and so I don't want to, delve into an area where I know nothing. I only know that it's a pandemic, and I know that I want to get students back to school as soon as possible, but it has to be done safely, because like I said, the main reason for me, besides protecting people from getting the virus, is if we don't do it safely and students have to go back home, we've harmed them again by our poor decisions, and we can't afford to do that.
Yeah. So if this were to continue, let's say it gets into January and beyond, we need to have a serious thought about, at a board member, as trustees, to see how we're going to pivot the education system so the students are not suffering and they have a new way of learning now. And we need to be all thinking about it. I'm sure you are thinking about that in a very serious way, because this way of learning may not work. It might be some acclimate people, your students have to get used to it. There'll be a time frame. So we need to kind of very much on the toes to keep an eye on the fact, if it continues longer, prolonged, how can we make it better with the tools that we have, and what kind of funding that might need, extra funding for infrastructure that's need to be down for a better fiber optic network, or all kinds of things that would need technology for this kind of interface, so they can have a better three-dimensional interface with the students and teachers. So we need to think about that. I think that's something that's going to be coming up. Hopefully it'll be resolved by January. We'll be back in schools, go on our merry ways. But if it prolongs, we need to be really on toes on that.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Paige, how we're doing time-wise? Are we coming close to it, or do we have another question we can ask students to come on?
Yeah, we are coming close, I would suggest. So we would have another discussion if interest would be, or to clarify the questions from the audience. So in the end, I would request Stephanie to please briefly summarize or briefly let our audience know what you stand for, how our audience would remember you.
Well, so very briefly, in a nutshell, I stand for this community. I stand for the students and the teachers and the parents. And every decision I would make as a board member will be centered on those people. And also the people who don't have students in the school district who supported Measure L and got our high school built. I want to let them know that we appreciate that. And, they made a great sacrifice for our students. And I want to advocate for them too. And the facilities that we have that we can share, there's a way to do that, protecting them, protecting the wear and tear. And we need to do that. We need to to make sure that all of our stakeholders know that when we ask them to do something, the district sort of led them to believe that they would get to use the facilities, and we have to do our best to like make that happen, you know, and still protect our facilities. But I want the parents and teachers and students to know that I've been with you side by side, volunteering, raising money for your students. I've been in the trenches advocating for you. For those of you who are happy that high school graduation and 8th grade promotion are not on the same day, I've been advocating for that for a long time, as many of you have, but I'm one of the few people that went and spoke to the board numerous times. And I gladly do that because I know what's important to this community. And people come here for the schools. People buy their homes and come to Mountain House because they hear about the schools. I truly believe that. And also because they know it's a great community. And it's a wonderful, diverse community. And I will celebrate your diversity, and I will serve you. And I will remember this, that as a school board member, every decision I make impacts people in our community. And I take that seriously. And I will never forget that I, as a school board member, am a public servant. And so that's hopefully how you can remember me.
Thank you very much, Stephanie, for the healthy discussion. So now I would encourage our voters to please ask the follow-up questions to Stephanie, or please forward the questions to us. We will forward it to Stephanie. So Stephanie, will you please share the Facebook link or where the audience can reach you?
Yes, I have a Facebook page, and it's Stephanie Olsen for LUSD. If you find my name, Stephanie Olsen I think it says LUSD. I can't remember exactly, but you can find me on Facebook. And my website will go live this weekend, and it is olsenforlusd.com, and that's OLSENFORLUSD.com. So that will be live this weekend, and I'll have the same things on it and links to my Facebook page.
Thank you very much, Stephanie. So I strongly encourage the audience, our voters, as well as the students to please ask the follow-up questions to Stephanie and make an informed decision for November 3rd. So again, I want to thank Amrit Chima, who is an educationalist and very much involved in volunteering and sparing his time and helping us out with connecting Stephanie with the Mountain House voters. And again, a great thanks to Assis and the students who came, spent their time or brought their expertise, what they are feeling, and asked the questions to get the clarifications. So thanks all. We will meet you again. Thank you very much. Have a wonderful evening.
Thank you, Stephanie. Appreciate coming on the show.
Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
Thank you.